Call the meeting to order. It's 7:30 p.m. The first item of business on the mayor and council meeting this evening is to approve the minutes of the meeting of December 3rd, 2018, and to amend the minutes of our November 19th meeting.
I'll move to accept the minutes of the mayor and council meeting on December 3rd.
Second.
I don't have a copy of that, of the amended minutes. Someone, Bill said that...
I gave you 2 copies today, one for you and one for them to read into, to read into the record. Mm-hmm. Do you want to read it?
Sure.
Sure, okay.
So this is an amendment to the minutes about our USDA loan and grant. Mr. Ingersoll, and I'm quoting, what should I start from the top?
Yep, it's all this one, so it'll be, I have it here. This is the body of it.
What should I read? This part?
Yep.
Okay, quote, Mr. Ingersoll stated that USDA provided the town with financing in the amount of $598,000 and a grant of $700,000 for the marina project. The $598,000 loan is scheduled to close on April 16th, 2019 at 1.375% interest for 40 years. He said that this agreement was entered into 2 years ago and there was an ordinance approved at that time, but there are resolutions to finalize the signing of the closing documents. He asked for the council to pass 03-2018/USDA loan resolution. Mr. Foster moved to approve 03-2018 USDA loan resolution authorizing and providing for the incurrence of indebtedness for the purpose of providing a portion of the cost of acquiring, constructing, enlarging, improving, and/or extending its stormwater facility to serve an area lawfully within its jurisdiction, was seconded by Ms. Kuiper and carried unanimously. So there's just a small area where we crossed out, but this resolution finalized, and it now says, but there are resolutions to finalize. So it's a pretty small change.
Yeah, our bond counsel recommends they want the language precisely the way they want it. That's exactly what we said. So
I would move that we accept the amendment as submitted, as read by the mayor.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Did we approve the minutes already, December 3rd?
You did, I approved the minutes, I just didn't have that.
All right. It's the most disjointed approval of minutes I think we've ever had. Okay, current operating funds on hand for the town of Chestertown this evening. Total operating cash on hand for unrestricted use is $1,548,956.45. We do have restricted use funds still in the bank for the marina project totaling $257,053.53. The next item is the payment of the bills.
Well, you signed more than I did this time, I think, so if you want to...
I move that we pay the bills.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously agreed to pay our bills
You got
tonight.
it.
Brings us to the police report with Chief Adrian Baker.
Dug out early today. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to present the November 2018 police report. We'll go over our hours, and then at the end I have a couple of points. Our administration was 325, that was 16%. Our criminal investigations were 113 hours at 7%. Our accident investigations were 13 hours at 1%. Vehicle patrol, 832 hours at 42%. We had 170 hours of foot patrol, that was 9%. We had training for 74 hours, 4%. Court time was 17 hours at 1%. And we had 219 hours, which was 11%. The police department made 11 adult arrests, and that involved 35 separate charges, broken down 7 each for DWI related and traffic. We had 5 for trespassing, 3 for FTA, and 2 each for assault, disorderly theft, and a school disturbance. 1 each for bad checks, burglary, a deadly and dangerous weapon, reckless endangerment, and robbery. And the school disturbance was kind of an unusual charge. I was commenting on that. That was a citizen who called and thought they saw someone with a handgun at the Baptist school on North Neck Road, and indeed they did. And the police response was within literally 1 minute, and it ended up being a pellet gun, but nonetheless, it was very disturbing, and the appropriate charges were proffered. So we were very, very pleased to respond quickly, and we're very thankful for that citizen who gave us a call. And quite honestly, we still don't know what the guy was up to. We had 0 juveniles charged. Our reported offenses in Part 1 section were 10. We cleared 2 by arrest, 4 by exception, 1 is unfounded. We had 2, our Part 2s were 18. We cleared 12 by arrest. Our motor vehicle citations were 40. We had 204 warnings, and we had 355 red speed violations.
Before we move off page 1.
Yes, sir.
We only hit 9% on foot traffic. I should have probably brought this up last month. But during the Christmas shopping holidays, when I was chief, I personally received thanks for walking through the stores and having my men walk through the stores. So what reason I bring that up, I would hope that in the December report will be up above 9%. It'll be up.
I think it will, sir, yes.
Yeah.
We had our overtime broken down. We had $17.50 for court, $53 for extended investigation. Shift coverage was $120, training was $18, and we had $12.50 for a special detail. Like I said, the red speed was $3.55. And I don't know if I kind of might include an extra paper in there that I normally don't put in there. It's just for clarification. It shows of the 355, it's broken down into 355. You have that paper?
Yes.
Explain that. We only have 1 camera, but if you'll recall, and I think I mentioned this before, we had a mounted box on the ground, and then they moved the camera from that up to a pole. So this is kind of reflecting that transition. The 55 citations were at the box, and then the 300 were when it moved up to the pole. From now on, it would just be on the pole. Ward 1 had just under 2% of the calls. Ward 2 had 31%, almost 32. Ward 3 had 22%, and Ward 4 had 28%. We had 4% outside the jurisdiction. Our busiest day of the week was Friday, and our busiest time was 1900 to 1959, or 7 to 8 o'clock. A couple comments. We had, if you look at the Part 1s and Part 2s, like I said, we don't always close them simultaneous because sometimes it takes us a month or 2 to catch somebody, or we catch a bunch of people at once. So we didn't have a lot of solved ones, or maybe not the percentage that we usually do, largely due to the one subject which was reported in the paper, and I've made you aware before. The guy actually he's got almost 40 charges on him. And this month, early this month, we actually went to New York and extradited that subject, brought him and the stolen car back, and made all those charges. So I think next month we'll kind of catch up on those charges. I spoke to you 2 weeks ago, asking permission to hire 2 officers. I again appreciate your permission to do so, and we've been going like crazy because our deadline is January 4th to get someone in the academy. I made an offer to 2 subjects who have accepted. We just got to get them through the polygraph and the psychological exam and that thing. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention that myself and another officer 1 Saturday ago participated with the Queen Anne County Sheriff's shop with a cop. And that was the first time that I did that. And if you're not familiar, stores and local merchants donate, basically get like a $100 gift certificate, and you kind of adopt a kid for a day, take them down. We get a Kmart on Kent Island, and they get a little shopping list, and they get to pick their presents. And then we had a nice breakfast at the American Legion. It was a really, really nice thing to participate in, and we were proud to do it.
Great.
All right.
You mentioned about the cameras, and several months ago there's been a discussion about cameras in different areas. And just reminded me that there were 2 or 3 inquiries from Ward 1, people saying, hey, they would be happy to have a camera on Gloucester Terrace, or actually in the adjacent ward there.
Yes, sir. So I had a budget item of about $10,000 for cameras, and I pretty much cut all that.
That's fine.
So I hope maybe this budget cycle will be in a little better position. I would like to reinstate that and would welcome the opportunity to put, I'd love to put 100 cameras out there. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the town manager's report. Bill?
Okay, the first thing I have is kind of like what we did in our last meeting. It's a resolution. This one would be 2018 real property tax credit, and you'll know what it is in a second. This is whereas Jeff McGuire, owner of the property at 108 South Cross Street, plans to totally renovate the second and third floors of his 3,300 square foot, 107-year-old brick building, restoring 2 restrooms, adding a bar area and a stage to create a new business, Zelda's Speakeasy, where he will provide prepared foods, alcoholic beverages, and live music. And whereas his new enterprise will provide residents and visitors with a new destination for food, drink, and entertainment in Chestertown's Art and Entertainment District, will create approximately 4 new jobs at the Zelda's Speakeasy and will allow the retention of up to 8 jobs at the existing first floor business, Play It Again Sam Coffee Shop. Therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of Chestertown that subject property shall receive a real property tax credit against the increase in county and town taxes resulting from the above referenced capital improvements, beginning in the next full year, following the date hereon approved, and continuing for 9 consecutive years thereafter as follows. And that was the 80%, 70%, 60, 50, 40, 30. Be it further resolved that the Mayor and Council, with their signatures below, fully support this application to the Maryland Department of Commerce. So this will be anyone who participates in our 1,200-acre enterprise zone. This is how they would do it. They'd envision improving their structure or building a structure. They get their plans approved, and they ask you for this.
But the exemption's just for that, just for the part that they're improving, not for the whole building.
Right. And this will have one other good effect, because instead of people going, gosh, I don't know if I better say how much this is going to really cost, because they get this back, it behooves them to be totally honest about what the improvements are going to cost. So I think this is really great. I like to see it happen one by one, because it'll provide a bright future for the taxpayers at Chestertown in the end.
Is this same kind of offer being extended to the gentleman who's opening up on High Street, LTO? Are they eligible for this as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a process, and they have to be aware of it. I mean, so we create this enterprise zone, and I think Jamie Williams helps promote it, and I know Kay helps promote it, but people should be, I mean, and we do give advertisement for it, but we don't actually go out and say, hey, you got to do this.
Right.
Maybe some people don't want to do it. Maybe they don't want to reveal exactly, honestly, how much they're going to be putting into their property. But yeah, you're right. I mean, people are eligible for it when they start building within that time period, and this shows a lot of patience on the mayor and council's part, and I'd say it's business friendly.
Oh, it's hugely business friendly. I mean, it's a huge tax incentive for people to put capital into their buildings.
Not just being modest. It is, it's great. And having 1,200 acres of the county, I mean, the county participated in this with us, but this is where most of it is, in Chestertown, 1,200 or 1,300 acres. It's all on a map, so.
So do you need a motion for this?
I do. I need a motion and second and signatures.
Want me to do the motion?
You sure can.
It's your ward.
I know. Can't wait
Step
for it
up.
to open. So, I make a motion that the town of Chestertown adopt resolution 05-2018, which is the real property tax credit for, what's the address?
Right here. 108 South.
For 108 South Cross Street.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let the record show we unanimously passed resolution 05-2018 for real property tax credit for the business on
Okay.
Cross.
Second thing would be the long-awaited holiday trash schedule, probably the most
Highlighted.
frequent phone call that we get. And so this comes straight from Mr. Henry himself. There will be no trash collection on New Year's Eve, 12/24. He will do that run early in the morning on 12/26. That's a Wednesday. There will also be no trash collection on 12/31. He will do that run early in the morning on January 2nd, Wednesday. And since recycling is typically on Friday, though, there should not be any changes to recycling in those 2 weeks. But don't be timid about asking again, because this is, it gets confused every year about when your holiday trash is going to be picked up. So we'll have it on our website also. The third thing I have is a little bit of a disappointment. It's a big disappointment to me. We had a lot of help from Dixon Valve and Chesapeake Charities in applying for a $4.5 million U.S. Department of Transportation BUILD grant application. BUILD is an acronym for Better Utilizing Investments to Leverage Development. This was to restore 13.4 miles of roads in Chestertown, which could sorely use it. We had great support from our senator and congressman, and I really thought that by being in the first wave of people or cities applying for this, that we had an excellent chance at getting funded at some level. But when I look at who we lost to, they're just huge projects, bridges, things that I guess would restore America, but 30 million, 5, 10 million, 20 million projects that seem to be already on the books. And anybody who's interested in seeing what projects are funded, I really think it's a good project to have in the country, and I hope that maybe next year we can resubmit the same application and find out what it is, what we should do. We're in a rural category, not the urban. Urban, you should see those. Those are so highly technical. They're not like our grant application, but the rural ones, they admit that rural communities don't get the same benefits as the cities, who often are part of entitlement grants. So we'll just try again. But it was really great that Dixon Valve, they helped us get Chesapeake Charities to write the grant. The grant was pretty hard to collect all that. We had to collect a lot of stuff about the roads and the engineering. We were going to make a lot of improvements. So I think that's good. The effort's worth it, especially if it yields something in the future, and that's all I have to say.
Bill, did you mention there was a website for that we could go to? Do you know that?
There's a BUILD website, DOTP, and you could probably go through that, but I'm going to send it to anybody who's interested. And you can see they're highly technical things that were funded, and mostly in urban areas. Okay?
All right. Okay, that brings us to the mayor's report. The first item under my report is the farmers market rules and regulations. This is a process we've been going through now for several months. We initially came up with a draft. Actually, Linda and Bill kind of formulated a draft. It kind of got out that we were trying to pass it really quickly. A lot of people showed up with a lot of concerns. We basically sent the rules out to the vendors and had them give us feedback, which you all did in droves. We got 7 single-space pages of suggestions and comments, many of which were actually kind of contradictory to each other, so it was very, very challenging to try to revise the original draft and essentially make any changes. So I think some of the major points are nobody has to move. The fees are basically the same as they've always been. It just really...
We backed off on the insurance and made it recommended but not required, and I still say it's really a good idea to have it for your own benefit. We explained in the document what we cover with town liability insurance, and I think we tried to meet somewhere on the snow issues by describing what a major event would be, whether it's a hurricane or a blizzard or whatever. So no one can say on Tuesday what the weather's going to be like on Saturday, but farmers more than anybody are probably watching it. So I think it's probably, there's a little learning curve there, but for me, the effort was, we took all the comments, we tried to put them in to the extent that we could, and then send it back again with the changes shown. And one of the disappointments was that when we first got the first draft back, there were things removed that weren't shown from the vendors, like what left, what's gone. So we sort of got an idea of issues there, because that's hard to change when it's gone. But I think it's a pretty good document so far, and I know there's still a couple of misconceptions about what it means, and there's supposed to be a dialogue, but that's very hard because we meet and we have to meet in public. So we send out a document with our changes, and we hope to get changes back, which we did. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mayor.
Yeah, a couple of things that were addressed. We had a lot of people concerned that weren't farmers or artisans. Actually, the nonprofit folks had concerns that if they had to be a 501c3, that was a very lengthy and expensive process to go through. So we lightened up the language on that and basically said community organizations, not 501c3s. Some people really wanted us to expand the people that could participate. So we basically said priority will be given to Kent County farmers and artisans first, and then as space allows, potentially vendors from Queen Anne's and Cecil counties could also be included. We already have at least one vendor from Cecil County, and I think one from Northern Queen Anne's, so they are grandfathered in, so nobody's getting kicked out. I mean, we really have been over backwards, you guys. I'm sure there's still some concerns out there, but so what I'd like to do is open this up for comments amongst ourselves first. Does anybody on the council have any other comments to make about this document?
If you look on page 4 of the 7, on the equipment and supplies, it addresses the parking on Park Row, but it doesn't address the parking on High Street if we start letting farmers park over there. Are we going to let them park?
I think what we decided is that if there's a ton of demand and the market is full as it is currently conformed, that overflow vendors could go to High Street where there's a ton of room. So I guess the answer is maybe, if there's a ton of demand, as some people seem to think there is. I'm not convinced that that's ever going to happen, but that's how it's worded, I believe.
I like your adjective, but I'm not sure what a ton of demand it amounts to. If you have one or two farmers who want to come down and start selling their goods, would that equal a ton? I know ton's 2,000 pounds.
I think initially the market manager would analyze if there's space to add them to where they currently are. I think for the most part, especially during the prime months, we're pretty full down there from what I see. And I think that's going to be an issue from, say, mid-April to mid-October. So if there's overflow demand.
Part of my concern was we widened that sidewalk strictly for the use of people to use it, and then they didn't want to use it for one reason or another. I've heard what some of them have told me is a little bit different than what that was verbalized to the council, but I'd like to see it used if we have some farmers who want to come in and use it. I mean, it'd be of value.
I would agree with Marty on this. Leave a little better metric than the ton. If something to the effect that if the farmer's manager is turning away people, that we would then come back to this opportunity to
Yes, I
expand
think
it.
that's absolutely. That to me is what the plan is.
Okay.
Well, I want to add too that I've talked to the garden club, and if they decide, if they could, I asked them to come to a meeting, and if they decide to renovate the grass in any of the, it looks worse than it's ever looked.
Yeah, agreed.
And so therefore, some inside vendors on Park Row would need to be moved to High. So, I mean, that's flexible. If they have the money and whenever they want to start working
I
on the
agree with
grass.
Linda as far as the shape. There's parts of it there's not a speck of grass.
I know, it looks
During the high
worse.
grass period times.
It looks worse than it's ever looked.
Linda, I'm not quite sure I understand. Are you suggesting that we would then move those people to High Street
Yeah.
while they, okay, sure.
But I think the worst sections are closer to High Street.
Definitely.
And I
The
think-
shade, it's the shade and a lot of rain.
I think part of, I mean, just to be candid about the shape of the grass, we sodded that my second year in office, like, not that long ago. There's just not a lot of sunlight in that park. And combined with the compaction that you get at an event like Tea Party, it's a pretty lethal combo. So, to me, the maintenance of the park and where the farmers and event artisans are almost separate issues. But if we really want to have grass in there, I almost feel like we need to just budget in sodding the place every 3 to 4 years. That's the reality that I've seen since I've been the mayor.
Well, the garden club wanted to meet with Bill and I asked them if they would put everything in writing and come to a meeting. This gives everybody, notice and what they can do and like a time frame. So
All right, well, let's stick to what's on these pieces of paper. Is there anything else that the council wants to say about?
on page 4, number 22, there was a blank line here. I didn't know whether there were any other.
What page is that, Linda?
Page 4, number 22, will collect all vendor application and vendor fees for the upkeep of the fountain, reseeding grass, trimming trees and bushes, maintaining and expanding brick sidewalks, and. Is there an and anything, or is this?
I think that's pretty comprehensive.
Okay, so we can end the sentence at sidewalks. And then number 23, space fees will be effective, and I just put January 1st of each calendar year.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Any other questions or comments from the council?
No.
I'd just like to express appreciation to Linda and Bill and everybody who's worked on this, including all of the people who've sent in comments. It's been a long process, and appreciate all the effort.
There is an application, and I forgot to, did I email that to you, Jen?
You did, but I have not put it online or anything yet.
Okay, and I think I revised it. I'll email it
Check
to
it
you
out.
tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'll get it up online too tomorrow.
Okay, are there any comments from the audience before we vote on this? Yes?
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for taking many of our comments and incorporating them into the new draft. I understand it was a lot of work, and I'm pretty sure most of us feel the same. I just had a couple of questions, small questions, from the couple of emails that I received. Since we haven't totally finalized the draft yet, and it's Christmas, and everybody's got a lot going on, we were hoping to extend maybe till February 1st, or if possible, these applications that we're required, because no one's received them as of yet. And the other thing, in addition, kind of involved with that, is that like in Rule 12, contract and applications are kind of periodically through the draft used interchangeably. And I mean, it would be nice to settle on contract maybe, and then application be reserved for new vendors or something else to kind of keep that a little bit more clear. And that was sort of the general comments that.
Well, the application is your application for the next year with a $20 fee.
Okay.
And
But that's
the
separate from
artisans
the
have
contract.
always paid that $20 fee, but it was never collected from the farmers.
Uh-huh. And then in addition to that, you'll be signing a contract in addition to the application, or is it the same paper?
It's an application, which you're applying for a spot in the farmer's market.
Okay.
This is the contract,
Okay. Well, I guess, none of us have seen
or
that.
the regulations, I don't know, you can call this.
Sounds like it's,
contract?
it sounds to me like it's one and the same.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's just what I'm saying. Maybe you could kind of clarify a little better that. And then it doesn't really address the seasonal vendors that come in part-time in the summer that maybe by January they don't know how their crop or their honey is going to do.
Yeah.
And so maybe they could have the same application date or contract date as the artisans, which is towards spring.
They've always been accommodated. There's always been a space for seasonal people. And,
On sort of a rolling basis
Yeah.
as it comes up.
Yeah, because the honey, people only, excuse me, have maybe like a 4-week window or when it sells out. And then the alpaca people here are only here in the fall, late winter, you know, this time of the year, and that's never been a problem. But there's also a $20 application fee and then a weekly rent, I just call it rent, you know,
Yeah.
for their space.
Well, I understand that. I just meant, are they still going to have this January 1st date that they have to apply?
Is
for the
anybody
following fall?
asking? Who's asking?
Nancy Nunn, I think she
Nancy Nunn.
sent an
Nancy-
email late this afternoon.
She
Yeah,
sent me a copy.
Nancy's there all year. It's just, they've been worked in, I mean,
Well,
nobody's
we
been
understand that,
turned away.
yeah. We just didn't know whether it was going to be written into the,
Yeah, maybe we need to add a
Correct.
sentence that
Somewhere.
seasonal vendors will be accommodated
Yeah,
on a
Yeah.
by a temporary,
need-to-know basis.
Yeah.
and there's always this, well, if it continues, Owen's space has always been the extra space. The girls and I decided not to put anybody in that space, that would be the temporary space.
okay. And so I guess it was, the other question we had kind of is in with 14, or my question is that we all filled out applications for our produce with the health department, and do they give you all a copy, or the town a copy of what we are selling or anything, so there's no communication really between the health department and you all? Okay.
That's up to you to display your license.
Well, we do, but, well, I do. You know, we have to, this year came around and asked us for applications, you know, to determine if we were selling, what we were selling, you know, all the food, produce vendors from the farms.
The health department did?
Yeah. And then they gave us a certificate, you know, if they approved what we were selling. So someone else knows kind of what the general
Yeah.
items are at the market. And I didn't know whether there was any communication between the town and that portion
And
of
I
the
think,
health department.
I think we would like the manager to tell us that things like that happen, just so that we know it. I mean, because other issues have come up in the past about, you know, they sort of descend upon the farmer's market about an issue of one type of food. I'm just thinking of those river clams that the guy was trying to sell a few years ago, and that, but we didn't know they were doing that, and it's nice to know. It's
Yeah.
important to know sometimes, in fact.
Well, in case you didn't know, they did do that this year, so. And so we all have cards identifying that, you know, that they have the records of our licenses and that kind of thing.
Well, I don't think that would hurt to throw it in with an application, but it's not a requirement.
Okay.
And I also think that, I'm just talking out of school because I'm not doing what you're doing, but people who are returnees, you know, I don't think they should have to worry about not getting in, right? So when they apply, it's
Yeah, I mean,
perfunctory.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Any other comments? yes?
Yes. I want to ask one more. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Under rule number 9, there's, when they have low-quality produce or something like that, and that's to be removed, and the managers can ask the vendor to temporarily leave until they get a letter from you all or whatever, and that certainly is logical. But the portion, there's one sentence in here: if for at any reason the vendor is not making a significant contribution to the market, I would like to have that significant contribution. I mean, I don't understand what that's based on. Is that monetary or somebody's opinion? Or basically, I think that since the hazardous food is addressed, that sentence could be struck out, since it's sort of arbitrary.
This almost seems like they meant significant improvement to their condition, because the sentence...
It just didn't make sense.
That sentence
to me,
before,
so-
the sentence reads that town authorizes managers to require a vendor to immediately remove any low-quality merchandise
Right.
or food from the market, and/or to vacate the market temporarily or permanently if for any reason that vendor is not making a significant contribution in the marina. But I think it means an effort to improve.
Improvement.
Because they might
Yeah.
have other produce.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
Fine.
Yeah.
So it's not the volume of sales, it's not,
I know, I think it's the qualities of it. They're not making an effort to get rid of bad produce or whatever.
Well, it just seemed like it was open to interpretation a little bit.
Don't
so-
think it's really necessary, but I think we could make our point better by saying if there's no improvement, they could ask them that they could remove them.
Okay.
But it may have already been made in that sentence. You know, when it says to vacate the market temporarily or permanently. Obviously, if the farmer's market, if the market manager sees no improvement, ultimately he or she would say, okay, you know, you keep bringing rotten stuff, people complaining, don't come
Well, I
back.
just didn't know what significant contribution.
I don't either. I didn't write it.
I'm not in with it,
I
it's
didn't
not very
write
clear to me either.
I didn't write that.
I don't know.
Okay, next.
Hi, I'm Jane Malone, and we operate the Coops and Crops stand. It's a relatively new stand at the market. We've only been selling at the market for 2 years. So some of the concerns that we bring are as new participants in the market. And I want to first comment on the very last matter you spoke about, which was this phrase, the vendor's not making a
I
significant...
can't hear you, I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
The last discussion
Yeah.
was about under paragraph 9, this phrase, the vendor is not making a significant contribution. We also thought that was a pretty subjective expression, and we suggested alternate phrasing, which was, for any reason the market is causing disturbance or undermining the viability of the market as a whole. I mean, on some level, we're trying to look for positive ways to talk about, you know, what vendors contribute to the scene, and I think the opposite of not making a contribution is to say that they're undermining the viability of the market as a whole, and not whether, you can't decide whether individual vendors. And I'm curious if anybody's
I still
seen
think
that.
that's subjective, and I think that what
Yeah.
if we remove everything after permanently,
Okay, great, okay.
then we're not
Okay.
subjective anymore. We're just saying
The
bad
next thing-
produce, bad deal, okay?
The next point I wanted to make is pertaining to the card that Dolly was just speaking about, and this is the card. And it's very simple, it has the name on it, and the title of it is Vendor Registration Card. It is not a license. And if you want to, I'd be willing to pass it around if anyone wants to see it. Have you seen these, Linda?
From the health department?
Yes.
Right. I'll be glad to pass it around just so you know what we all get. But my point with passing this around is to say that some items that are sold, you know, produce items that, you know, rather prepared goods, require a license.
Yeah.
But actually, you know, basically sugar products, the jams and jellies, all they require in the state of Maryland is that the seller contact their state health department and find out what the state health department requires, excuse me, not their state health, their county health department, and find out what that county requires. It's strictly local regulation. And in Kent, you know, all we have is this registration. Montgomery County, for example, you have to fill out a bunch of papers and submit some money and whatever. It's different from county to county. But the point is that the text that we have here about everyone must have a license, that's actually not correct. If you're in Kent County, if you're selling something that's not considered a hazardous food, all you need is that card. So this paragraph number 14, I think it was, on the bottom page 3, is actually inaccurate. It's incomplete. It doesn't. If you're looking to have new rules and have them enforceable, they need to be, reflecting the reality of the laws.
Which number is it?
Step 14.
We submitted an
On
edit.
page
I'm sorry, I'm
three,
looking at my edits, and so it's below prohibits the resale of products in the market, the next paragraph down. I'm looking at my edits here, and I don't know if you saw
So
these.
15, prohibits vendors.
Is it 15?
No.
So I'll read to you just quickly
Yeah.
what I had so you can hear the language.
Well,
Allows the sale of cottage
we
foods.
met with Erica at the health department, and she decided what
What
she
should be in
needed.
there, okay.
And also, if she had to come on Saturdays, that she would go to the county commissioners, and if any specific vendor required anything in addition to this,
Yeah.
and there was a fee for their, charge for her to be
Yeah.
there on Saturday, that specific vendor would be charged
Okay.
for whatever she needed to come out for on Saturday.
Okay.
So,
And I'm trying to talk about the opposite situation.
but
The
this
situations
is all
where-
that's needed.
That's all that's needed if all you're selling is jams or, sugary products or
Or
baked goods.
tasting.
If on the other, well, tasting's a different issue. Tastings is a different issue. But what I'm trying to say right this second, and I don't want to be any longer about it, is that I submitted a detailed comment on this to try to clean this up so you covered the range of possibilities
Yeah.
on this little subject, and it's not yet covered completely.
And
And so I-
that's
I-
exactly
look at my own-
Would you-
That's
would you-
exactly what we used that model to go through all the changes when we sat down and made them.
Can you
We used
read
the
what it says?
113.
Can you read
Yes,
what
what I
it says?
have is, allows the sale of cottage foods such as jams and non-hazardous baked goods covered by Maryland Comar 10.15.03.27 by farm source vendors that have registered with the Kent County Health Department and comply with all food safety regulations, and the sale of and the sale of low-acid, acidified, and potentially hazardous foods is applicable by Maryland Comar 10.15.04.18 by vendors that have been approved by the Maryland Department of Health. There was just two kinds of vendors you have. Dolly, with some of her products, is licensed under the latter clause. Right now, at the moment, we are only registered under this because we're selling
Right.
the sugar jams, and we had registered with Erica and told her what we're gonna. So I just,
Then-
and there's more language here too, by the way, which is the latter group also has to possess a current on-farm home processing license as applicable by a different section of Comar, and then everybody also has to comply with all food safety requirements.
But you're departing from 14, you say, with this, ours started, prohibits the reselling of commercially bought
Right.
products.
Next
that
paragraph down.
The next paragraph down starts with
That's
prohibits vendors with vehicles.
See, I think this was the
What is-
revised copy that was sent to us that was,
So
had
if I
our
look now at your
verbiage left out
your
of
current
it.
version,
Yeah, we sent you
it's
ours.
now under,
That was
your
the-
paragraph 14 at the bottom of page 3.
That's where
Farm
it
source
starts.
vendors, read the second sentence, starting with the second sentence.
Farm source vendors
It's all that. All
must be
that stuff is what I was
approved by
just
the
saying.
Maryland
Okay.
Department of Health.
Okay.
But anyway, all that to
Can you
say,
just give
But
us
it's a
your
catch-all.
language? And you say when did we first have your language?
this was all submitted to the market managers in November.
That was
All of
the
this.
first revision
All of this
that we
was
used.
Okay. So, but
There's a whole
somehow,
bunch of stuff in here that was never reflected in any of
Look,
this.
all right.
Can I read, let me read
That
you a
was the one that
sentence.
was the whole.
Yes.
Here's what I have in my hands. Farm vendors agree to comply with all applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulation and obtain all necessary licenses and permits and provide documentation of such compliance. Doesn't that cover what you're
That
saying?
absolutely is
Like, I don't-
correct.
Yeah, that's what we have in the,
That's what we have, right on my hands.
You don't have this thing about the state licensing anymore? Yeah, see that,
It's
see the
not the-
clause right before that, go up to the next
Yeah.
sentence above. The sentence above that says everybody selling food has something that not everybody selling food has. That's my
Well,
point.
just read us the exact sentence that you don't like. From David.
From yours, yeah,
From David.
thank you,
Sit-
David, I'm
and I'll
so sorry.
strike
I'm
that.
so sorry. All right, so starting at the very bottom of page 3, farm source vendors.
must be approved by that's all on page 3.
Yeah.
Maryland Department of Health, Office of Food Protection and Consumer Health Services for non-farm home processing license and responsible food safety requirements.
All right, now,
License must be.
does that one have to go? Stop. Does that- does-
Has to
can
be
that stay?
expanded. It has to be
Right,
expanded.
right.
There's another option for some of us. Some of us don't fit into that box.
All right.
We fit into a different box.
But then when the mayor reads what he reads, doesn't that cover you?
Yeah, but why would you then spell out that previous sentence? You could strike it. Farm
All right.
vendors agree to apply with all
Show
necessary.
me what you recommend
Just go
striking.
through this. Just tell us which one you want
If
out.
you want us to, if we strike out the small sentence that says your license must be on display,
No,
does
the
that
one before
satisfy?
it. The one before it is so specific, not all of us fit into
The
that
one that
sentence.
starts with farm source vendors, you want that out?
Yes.
Okay?
I'm sorry it takes so long.
Mine is, my labels and my jelly labels are all sent to the Maryland Department
So
of
let's go
Agriculture
through
because
on
I'm
this, I'd like to
certified
just-
organic.
But look, doesn't this
Right here.
general sentence, you agree to comply with all applicable
Yes.
federal, state, and local
Yes.
laws? I mean,
You could have that be the
it can't be
sentence,
more of an
the whole
umbrella
paragraph.
sentence than
Right.
that.
That comes later.
That
Perfect.
works.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
Are
that
we
was,
striking
And that's
this?
here.
All right.
Yes.
So are we
It's
good?
numbered different.
Farm service vendors must be approved by, not everybody fits that second sentence, so if you delete that, I'm sorry.
I got it, I got it.
And,
I think I got it. I'm trying to get it.
Trying to get it.
And also-
Working very hard, so.
No, it's okay.
All right.
Here,
And license too. Yeah, no,
Okay,
that's fine.
Anything else?
I have another issue, yes, I'm sorry. Actually, you know what, there were a lot of issues in here that have been, and I just want to be really clear, we do appreciate all the work you've been through, but there's even minor typos that we've submitted here
Well, yeah.
that haven't been addressed, and so it just seems like, I'm not sure what else was never read, but, at any rate,
Huh? No,
the thing I wanted to
everything,
speak
everything
about-
was read. It's possible to have
was?
typos even after everything's read, yeah.
oh, everybody has a trigger finger.
All right, what else would you like to?
The other issue I want to speak to you about was about the issue of parking, and it's again, as a newer produce vendor at this market, and I did speak to this the first meeting I attended, which was the week in October, but I just want to reiterate that, the question was asked earlier about the spaces on High Street, and that there's parking next to those spaces. It's a haul for those of us who are bringing in produce, and the idea of the whole pack and stack is really cumbersome. And we really wish there would be some consideration of considering it, farmers, if there could be some consideration for access to parking on the permanent farm. We really.
I'm sorry, I'm missing that last part. Is it access to parking on High Street you're asking for, or what?
Well, the High Street discussion is interesting in that, a few of us have said maybe we'd be better off on High Street if we could park over there. On the other hand, it's hard for one produce vendor to go out there by ourselves, and everybody else is all the way over on Park Row. So we have to, the situation we talked about earlier, where, we've got a lot of vendors, a lot of demand, when the market's really full at the height of the summer, that's a great time to be on High Street.
I agree with you.
But one of the difficulties we have on the farm side is, as the weather is getting worse here, do we have to ask permission every week to move from our spot not on Park Row over to Park Row, or could just be a given that the vendors can work that out among themselves? So the allocation of spaces is a tricky subject. But at any rate, we would really appreciate access to parking. I know a couple
That,
other vendors do as well.
I mean, as far as rearranging, that's up to the manager, but I agree with, well, we've got 3 people on the council who agree with backing in on High Street like they do on Park Row.
Is that, but that's not in the rules.
The parking part is done.
Parking part is not. So when you say opening up High Street, would that include being able to back in
Yeah.
parking? Because that would make it very attractive.
Yeah, that's what
That's the whole
Mr.
purpose,
Stetson's whole plan was.
Well, it's
backing,
not in the rules.
No, he didn't,
anymore.
you had back-in parking, didn't you, Marty?
yeah,
Yeah,
just,
He did,
just
it
just like
didn't get
Park Row.
incorporated here.
Anything to
Well,
keep them off
problem
the
with this
grass.
doc- That is I think some things should not be in this document that are that specific. That's just my feeling. It's really hard to make it, to have every answer here.
You guys got together with 3 or 4 other vendors and said, hey, let's go to High Street so we can back in, and you approached the manager and that person approached us, we would be more than amenable. That's why we widened the sidewalk. What I'm hearing mostly is I don't want to move from my spot. So we can't win up here. That's,
It's a difficult,
It's a difficult situation.
People every week we're in a slightly different spot, people ask us what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
so.
And that was one of the major complaints when I did the interim was we have to carry our product all the way in, on the inside of the park. And so it was we thought it was a perfect solution to have back in on High, just like they do on Park Row.
We have spoken with 2 other vendors who are not now on.
And I believe you were the ones that changed your mind. You wanted a different spot,
Yeah,
and
but that was
then
never an option when
you
we
changed.
were interested.
We were never a parking vendor, that never happened.
all right, that's an option.
Okay, so anyway, we have, just a FYI, we have talked to 2 other vendors who are all like us, sort of, well, we're risking being in a new spot and all by ourselves, so
Yep.
it's a question mark, but thank you for clarifying.
And Chris, I think we've heard from you that 3 or 4 farmers would constitute a ton.
Exactly.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
good, all right.
A ton is 3 or more.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good.
So
Wait, this guy's been waiting. Yes.
A couple of questions. On the 12 hours that we have to notify them, the products I sell, I've been caught in the rain and ruined everything. I can't give them 12 hours. I just have to know in the morning if it's going to rain or isn't.
Right. I was that way too.
What page and what do you,
Pardon me, there's something in there that says that within 12 hours that the market manager has to be notified if you're not going to the market.
oh, okay.
Well, we can make it at the discretion of the manager.
Yeah, I think, I agree with Linda there, that some of these things are definitely managerial, on-the-spot decisions.
Okay, when I looked at it, and it may have changed since then, I think it contradicts. In the very beginning, it said that you will have insurance, liability insurance, and then
All right,
towards the
tell me-
bottom, it said,
tell me.
no. In the beginning, it said it's, one place says you will have, and the other says it's,
Would you tell me what page you're talking about?
in the very beginning,
Let's see.
about the liability.
Well, in the beginning, somewhere it said strongly suggests. that
Yeah, one
you
says strongly
carry
suggest,
liability.
and
Well,
then-
just tell me which part you're talking about.
Okay, so page 2, paragraph 5, says strongly recommended
Okay.
on the insurance.
Right?
Yes,
And
5.
I'm looking for the other one.
the other one at the very end, it says,
Here it
the
says
responsibilities
is
are.
strongly
yeah,
recommended.
we'll have, or when we turn,
Where?
Oh, when you apply, you have to produce evidence of insurance.
Where's that? What page?
With your application.
Page number, please.
We're looking.
Do we know who that man is?
Vendor responsibility.
Sir, what's your name so we can get it right in a minute?
oh, I'm sorry, it's Bruce Southern, I'm with Pet Treats and Goodies.
Okay. Did you hear that? Okay, thanks.
Yes, number 3, on page 6, it says, collect and turn into town office all signed vendor applications, proof liability insurance, and application fee prior to deadline date.
Number what?
Number 3 on
Number
page
3.
6.
Number 3, yeah.
All right.
Your applications.
Well, one says proof
We'll
of
put,
liability, the other says...
hey, okay.
Okay,
We'll put proof of insurance if applicable. I mean, if you have it, that's fine. Really recommend that you do. So it's not gonna hurt that you show that you have it, but you're not gonna be required to have it, okay?
All right.
Thanks for finding that.
but another question, and I hate to even ask this, are the merchants aware that we may take up the spaces on High Street? Are the merchants on the other side?
Yes. Well, the woman who's in charge of the downtown Chestertown Association said they do not see the farmer's market as a threat to their businesses, and they agree that the farmer's market brings people into their businesses,
Okay.
and it's our discretion.
I just, okay, and one last thing, I would be the next person, if we were, when they used to go by seniority, I guess they still do, I'd be the next person that would be in line to take a space that opened up.
That's not really applicable to this, though. I mean, that's more of a conversation to have with the manager.
Because, I was told by the managers that I could have Owen's space.
We did,
Okay.
he was the next in line, and it's been vacant, and it's been vacant for a while, and we were letting temporary people, but it's been vacant for quite a while, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, and he was next on the list, so just so that everybody
Okay.
did tell me
Okay.
that starting January 1st, he could utilize.
Okay, are there any other comments about this? Yes.
Just, I'm happy to report that because of the good work you all have done, I'm Richard Crane, and my address is 12026 Parson Hill Court in Wharton. You've actually sort of stolen my thunder in a good way, because
Good.
I think you covered a lot of the things that I came here about. I am one of those part-time vendors that do probably 4 weeks for selling honey. I really come here as a beekeeper, but also the president of the Upper Eastern Shore Beekeeping Association. We do have people from the northern part of Queen Anne's and some from the southern part of Cecil who are members of our club, which when I read the regulations, I thought you might want to consider deciding what constitutes the southern part of Queen Anne's County. Is it Churchill, is it Centerville? Because you said in there that there would be left to the managers, and I think you could give them some clarity if you would decide what constitutes the cutoff point for when it's the northern part of Queen Anne's County versus...
I think we changed it, didn't we, to Queen
page
Anne's
2, number
and
4.
Cecil, and no
Yeah,
boundaries.
I think it's
didn't
just Cecil and Queen Anne's now.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
we
have
didn't put any
Southern,
boundaries.
make
Yeah,
it clear.
we struck
Queen
Southern.
Anne.
The one I got today says they did differentiate.
This is
Okay.
the one that was emailed out to us last week.
Page 2, number 4, you're saying?
Yes.
Well, it says that, the first sentence says Kent County, Queen Anne's, and Cecil. And then it goes on to say preference will be given to vendors from Kent County, northern Queen Anne's.
Vendors from Cecil and Southern.
Did we intend to strike the southern and northern?
Yeah, vendors from Cecil, Queen Anne,
It's kind of north of Centerville.
Defines local to be vendors who live and produce their products in Kent County, Queen Anne's, and Cecil counties. That's the
Yeah.
lead sentence,
Okay,
yeah.
okay? That's the lead sentence. Doesn't say northern or southern.
okay, but it's the second sentence.
Well, we always had the peach vendors, and they were from Centerville, so.
It's-
I think it's really unfair to zero in on a certain person or,
Well, I agree, but kind of north of Centerville is what we were considering northern Queen Anne.
The question is, do we want to keep these words
Preference will
northern
be
and southern?
given
I
to
would.
vendors
You know
from
what?
Kent County.
Strike them?
Well, I would, because here's this question, where's the line? What do you mean by that, you know? I like the word preference will be given, because to me, it's like a radius. And I've been here since day one on this, 83 or whatever. It was Chestertown vicinity, Kent County, Queen Anne's and Cecil. If we couldn't find vendors, in the beginning we couldn't, we would expand a little and get a vendor from somebody else to fill the market. And it was seasonal then, mostly. It basically, we were waiting for things to come, and strawberry or whatever came early. It didn't have the variety of things allowed. So that was how we did it, and it worked every time. Space available was also important, so you didn't go beyond those boundaries if you had no space.
Look, I feel like we're really nitpicking a lot of stuff that ultimately the market manager is gonna have some discretion on this stuff. You guys gotta give us a little bit of breathing room and like, understand that we're operating in good faith. We're not trying to like, bring in people from all over the world, and we're not trying to exclude people and make sure, like, bust you for not having a license versus a permit. Like, I think a lot of this is just things that are gonna get resolved on the ground at the market by the people that run it. You guys all know each other. It's, like, I feel like we're making a really big mountain out of a pretty small anthill, to be really honest. But I will take a couple more comments just to make sure.
I just wanted to ask a question, because we're selling honey.
Yeah.
Do we need to go to the health department to kind of get that registration thing that...
There's the expert right there in the blue sweater.
I mean, I'd like to tell my constituents, you know, the other beekeepers, if we need to do that.
I would think you would, yeah.
It's
something
Erica.
people
I
are,
would think so.
I would make the phone call. I'd just make the phone call, because I can't believe it.
Well, when she came around and did this, you know, it was probably at the beginning of the
Yeah,
season.
like a roundup.
A lot of the seasonal vendors hadn't all come in at that
Yeah.
point, so a lot of people
I
were
could just
skipped.
call.
I
Yeah,
would.
please, just
it's-
call.
it's-
You're probably good with Honey.
Her name is Erica, and she's at Environmental Health at the Health Department. That's where you get the,
Yes, sir.
So this seems to me to be a gap in the material, and it comes up around parking. We have a manager as farmers, there's a manager of the artisans, there seems to be no manager of the nonprofits.
it's right here.
So who's going to regulate if we have to pack and stack, which is an onerous thing, and can't park in the perimeter? But not everybody agrees with me. I really like having the political parties there because I think it adds some energy. But there can be a dozen people per political party, so who's making sure that they're not parking in the, are you making sure they're not parking in the perimeter?
No, I am not.
Well, who's going to do that? Who's going to be responsible?
we add
We,
it to the
we
permit?
added it to that, and they'll be given the rules and regulations. So if someone sees it, you have to kind of
You
police
mean
it
parking their
yourself.
cars?
Yeah.
No, I don't know where they park their cars.
But we did add it to the,
To the rules that they
it's
should not park around the park.
the community organization permit. That was
Well,
added.
who oversees, who's the manager of the nonprofits?
I sign the permits for them. They generally have tables. But you're saying where do they park their cars?
Well, if the rest of us are not.
Where do you park your car?
Huh?
I mean, where does anybody park their car?
Well, we're not permitted vendors are not permitted to park on the parameter of the park.
Well, I mean, we have covered meters for your operations there. I don't get it.
Yeah.
What don't you get?
Well, I don't get what you're saying, because the spaces are reserved for
There
you.
isn't it no
On
parking?
page 5-9.
It's basically an honor system. We ask you not to park around the fountain park during the market.
Well, the green
It's-
covered
it's-
spaces,
It's like
They're
an honor
covered. I mean, they're
So-
covered for you.
those are for vendors.
Yeah.
So what is page
No, we're-
5, number 9?
This is
Okay.
a very interesting
Well,
conversation.
let me,
Yes, it is.
maybe you want to hear something I'm not saying. Park Row has covered meters, and actually, we don't get money on any meter now, that say farmer's market 9 to 12. That's for you, right?
So those of us who are inside, are on the inside of the sidewalk.
I don't think our earlier laws, and that's why we have newer ones, there never was anybody inside until it expanded. The original park was to be, the vendors parked on that street, we widened the sidewalks. I think Owen let them expand and people ended up on the lawn and around the center. So I really don't know about the parking for the secondary and tertiary vendors. I really don't. I can tell you one thing, it's not reserved by me for anybody.
So right now, there's still the green covers on the meters on High Street.
For the people who park their trucks up or whatever.
Okay, we were parking there. And then when these rules came out, it was our impression that we would no longer be allowed to park there. That the words of these rules
Oh, well, then
contradict.
It says are not permitted to park in spaces on the perimeter.
And the
of Fountain
artisan,
Park between
the
8
artisan
a.m. and
manager
noon
doesn't
during
let
market
her
hours.
people park around Fountain Park.
What?
The artisan manager doesn't let her vendors park around Fountain Park.
So, if...
Yeah, I'm
if
sorry,
the-
I'm sort of, I agree that the vendors who park on Park Row, on the south side of Park Row, they back their trucks in.
Yes.
The parking there is and has always been for them.
Yes.
Yes, we're not talking about
Okay.
that.
Those
They're talking about
covers
interior,
were-
they're talking about ones on the interior.
Those covers
I-
were put on the
Those of us who are
meters
not
in
on Park Row.
anticipation
So the
of,
words of these rules say vendors cannot park except for Park Row. on the
those
perimeter.
bags were put on those meters in anticipation of the farmers backing in on High Street. So if you don't want to be on High Street, we can take the bags off those meters.
But I think the people on the interior of the park, they do have a tougher hike. They don't have the the best spot. They were added later, not by me, but that's part of the issue that I have with the garden club jumping on me all the time about the grass being down all the time. And we've tried other things in the past, we've tried to seed it, but the market goes the whole year now. I can't reseed it, there's no break from October to May. So this is how it is now. Those people that are vendors on the interior, they're gonna have more of a walk. There's no guaranteed parking for them anywhere that I know of. Okay, so that, now you say that when a community person comes along and they're in a spot, you know, and where are they taking somebody else's spot? And I say no, because there is no designated parking for the interior people.
I think we can just add a stipulation that interior farmers market vendors can park on High Street. I mean, would that help?
Yes.
And then they're gonna fight over them because there aren't enough.
I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay, let's do
But
that.
I'd just like to say that number 11, so basically,
Yeah.
vendors, community organizations, you have the same phrase starting at number 9 and number 12. vendors,
Okay.
community organizations. Number 11 just starts with vendors, and, or excuse me, yeah, vendors with spaces on a park row must unload and reload. So basically, we're trying to alert you to the fact that it's our observation that a lot of parking gets taken up by particularly certain nonprofits because they
All right.
come from their home and they take
What-
a lot of parties, just so you know.
What about the idea of the nonprofits coming in an hour later? That they are not allowed to come in at 8 o'clock with the market vendors, so that you guys get your spaces, do your packet sack, I mean, because let's face it, they're not supposed to be lugging. And some of the wars between the Republicans and the Democrats fighting for space, I can tell you that hasn't been fun to referee here. It's like Spy versus Spy in Mad Magazine. It's really been crazy. And I've told both the Republicans and the Democrats to stop it, you know, because love the farmers market, but we don't need fighting over it. Nobody owns the land there. So I do like the community organizations. I've often talked about whether we should have a limit on that. I think if we started it later, that you guys could get in there, get your spaces where you know you always get.
That's a great suggestion.
Okay?
Okay, sounds good.
And then we'll also
So
put a
we'll make
note
that
in there,
now.
do not park on High Street. I have to be specific, because I know they're not gonna be where vendors are supposed to be pulling in their trucks, so.
Okay, so wait.
We're
So
on
we have a
straight?
suggestion that community organizations set up an hour after the farmers set up, and that farmers that are on the interior of Park Row are allowed to park on the High Street. Are you getting all this, Jim?
Yep.
Because eventually I want to pass something tonight.
Yes, yes.
And I have a list now that's like almost as long as the 7 pages you guys gave us. All right, I'm going to go to this gentleman because he's been very patient.
So,
Bill Kelly from Redwood Farms. First of all, I want to thank everybody up there on the days for all the effort you've put into this. You've been more than accommodating, and I think you did a hell of a job. I
Thank
really do. One thing we want to clarify, and this is more of an ask than anything else. Since we're going by new rules, new applications, please allow us to submit our packages by February 1st.
Sure, yeah, I already have that.
That's fine, that's fine.
That's done.
That wasn't really
And
clear.
after
But
this year, we'll go back to what it
Yeah,
says.
stay with your January
Right.
1st
Right.
date. But this year, give us the freedom of February.
Yeah, I think that's no problem.
Only if I can
I got
get
one
lima
question.
beans.
Yes.
Only if I can get
Fire
lima
You
away.
have to say who you are, Santa.
Not long ago, the fees were doubled from $5 to $10.
Yeah.
Everybody said, oh, well, $10, that's not much. That's $520 a year. You with me? Okay, we do 4 markets. 2 are seasonal. I'm gonna throw them out. One is year-round, like this one. That's Annapolis. The fees we pay over there are $300 a year. We get shelter and we get electric.
Sounds like a
And in
better
the
deal.
summertime, they turn the fans on, and if it's dark,
never
they
leave
turn the
there.
lights on.
Can't believe you're over here.
Well, it's an hour drive.
40 minutes.
Yeah.
40 minutes.
How fast do you go?
Oh, he's,
I'm driving, sorry.
There's more money over in that.
Well, we know that. I came from there.
So
Would
you
make more of a
so you can
profit.
charge them more.
Okay.
My name's Lou Dodd, and I'm from Cedar Run Farm, 8 miles south of town. I've been there since '52. Now, are the fees gonna stay the same, which are outrageous?
Aren't they?
Yes.
Aren't we known for being outrageous? Yes, they're gonna stay the same.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, that's outrageous compared to Annapolis.
So you're not...
300,
You're
500.
not gonna come anymore?
I didn't say that.
Okay, all right.
Well,
But I'm gonna start looking for another Saturday market, I can guarantee you that.
in addition, and I said this before, that the artisans have always paid the $20 application fee, but that was never collected from the farmers, which wasn't your fault.
Well, I
But
can't even get a receipt. Never could, all the years I've been here.
I gave the girls receipt books.
I write a check every week, and that's my...
That's your
Let's
receipt.
start doing.
All right.
Because I had this
Thank you.
problem a couple years ago.
So you're not gonna
No, it's gonna be the
regulate
same.
the fees
Next,
there?
maybe next year.
No.
That's horse hockey.
Might be.
All right. Is there, what I'd like to
somebody
do,
take your place, believe me.
what I'd like to do is, go ahead, if somebody could please make a motion to pass this with the stipulations that we take into account. There was actually some really good
I
feedback.
think we're gonna do all those things.
took forever.
We don't have to itemize.
We
it.
need, can we make a general
Yeah.
Can we
motion?
simply say as amended?
As amended
As
with
amended.
a discussion.
Subject to-
So wait,
revision.
can we, before we make a motion, what I'd like to do is make a motion that we pass this as amended this evening. And if you guys, I don't know if, is you guys you?
Yeah, no, we'll have it.
If the staff at town hall could make as many modifications
I got it.
as
I
needed.
wrote
and
it in
then
here.
Send it out one last time to you guys. And then we'll go to the February 1st for the application, and hopefully most people will be happy. David, were you about to make a motion? I thought I saw.
I make a motion that we approve the farmers market regulations as amended this evening and is recorded by Jennifer Mulligan.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Let the record show we
Yes.
unanimously have passed
Yeah.
Yeah.
new market rules
Probably the longest
2019.
motion on record.
And can I say one thing?
Not-
Thank you. And Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. But in addition, in that draft that's now law, this, by having an extension to February 1st, it'll give the market managers
Sure.
time to organize a meeting, which it also states in one of those rules, which I don't remember the number.
And we do appreciate you guys a lot. Like, we all realize what a great thing the market is for the town, and it brings a ton of people to Chestertown every Saturday, and it stimulates business in the storefronts, and so, thank you guys. I didn't love the process, but we got something
Well,
done.
it's tough to go from one page to 7,
I agree.
you know.
You know what?
It's hard to write regs with like
But
40 authors.
You had to admit that what was going on out there wasn't really off of one page, it wasn't off of one page of
Certainly, we would do an
regs.
update,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's been a criticism all along, was that we've never gotten any receipts or paperwork or anything funneled back to us to have in our file.
All right.
That, now.
We've got a Dolly page in here now, at least one of the
I
pages.
bet you do. I've become the market terrorist.
We got one for you.
Okay, I'm gonna move on
Yes.
to item
And the
6B.
foxes ate all my chickens, that's why I didn't have eggs this year.
Okay,
Thank
Can we
you.
leave? Thank you.
yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
The second item under the mayor's report is this is actually an old proposal. There's a group called Mortneck Road Solar that is interested in putting a large scale, and really an industrial scale solar array on a property that is basically right behind, pretty close behind like the Acme. As you drive out Mortneck Road, it's the Clark Farm, which is on to your left. And they submitted a proposal several years ago to the county. It's land that's not in town. It's actually on the county. They submitted a proposal to the county. The county, how long ago was this? Like 3 years?
A year and a half ago.
A couple years ago. The county objected to the proposal because it wasn't in compliance with their comprehensive plan. And they have set aside land in the county for industrial scale solar projects. So basically what they were saying is, it's not that we're opposed to solar overall, it's that we'd like you to put it in areas where we've designated as an appropriate use. The county back then also asked the town for a letter stating basically what we thought about it. And a year and a half ago, which is I know before a couple of you guys were here, our attorney also submitted a letter on our behalf opposing the project on the grounds that that part of the county is designated in our comprehensive plan as a growth area for Chestertown in the future. It's a farm that we've always eyed potentially one day down the road as a property we'd consider annexing so that we could have high-density development adjacent to high-density development. And we also wanted to be able to have some control over that development if it were to come to that, so that we'd have an attractive gateway entrance into the town. So the county, so basically, after the town did that, the county did that, there's another group, can't remember what they call themselves, the folks that were against the wind turbines. Preservation, what's it called?
No, it's the Preservation Group. Alliance for Preservation.
Yeah, they submitted a letter as well. Long story short, Morgan Solar dropped the application, but they've come back and they're looking at doing a smaller scale version of what they originally proposed, but it's still a pretty big solar array that would essentially be a gateway entrance to Chestertown. So the county has made overtures to us to state again our opinion on this project. And so I'm bringing that up to the council because I know that Stuart Barrell, I believe, was maybe considering drafting a letter that we would then send, just so that our voice is also heard on this, in the event that this company may come to the town and ask to be annexed for the purpose of building a big solar array there, which as a former planning commission member, it just doesn't match up at all with the language in our comprehensive plan. And I know not everybody reads the comp plan as much as I have, but, so I'm just throwing that out there for discussion. Would you all be supportive of sending that letter stating that, or basically restating what we had said a year and a half ago?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but the plans for the bypass, if there were ever a bypass, I remember going to, I don't know if there was a comp meeting or what, but Kent County can accommodate the bypass, but Queen Anne's has put development in its path. I don't know.
I think this is independent of any bypass that would, I mean, even if the bypass were never to happen, I still don't think that having a big solar array there is what we've ever envisioned for that property were it to ever be annexed by the town. Right now, this is outside of town and it's on the county level, but they essentially asked for our support in opposing this.
Chris, how far out Morganic is this going to?
It's
make a picture for it.
You know where like the brickyard is on the
Yes.
right? Frank Rhodes' furniture shop.
Yes.
You look to your left, there's a big farm.
Okay.
That's all one property.
It goes all the way down to the creek.
It goes all the way down to Morgan Creek. It goes almost all the way to like Suds and Soda. It's huge. It's like 1,000 acres.
Okay.
They came once before when it just doesn't make sense to me, so we don't, there's plenty of places in this county where they could put solar farms that wouldn't be objectable to your, besides that, if we need something that's gonna pay taxes out there, and they're not gonna wanna pay a lot of taxes for a solar farm, so.
Agreed on that point too, so.
What makes it so special to them that they want that particular piece of property?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the asking price is right, or they just see it as ground that's particularly productive potentially for solar arrays. Based on its orientation, it is sloped kind of towards.
It looks like they wouldn't have to build a slope, the slope's there.
I've asked them, but in the past when they came and they talked to me, I said, well, why not go build this in the county where they've already zoned for this? And they said, a lot of that land isn't as prime for solar production as this farm. That was one of their.
They also have the transmission lines. They don't want to lay or pay to have all those transmission lines.
Substation right across the street.
But that's just too bad. It's part of their business.
Yeah.
And I don't know that this is so immediate. I think some of the council's new and doesn't know about it, and I don't think the Public Service Commission case is in January, and I think the group that approached us before is asking for an extension or a delay of it so that they can mobilize. So I think if you didn't do anything tonight or you wanted to know more about it, you could. But the last time that this occurred, our attorney intervened and just put our name in the hat as an interested party, an intervention letter, saying that if the issue comes up, we want to be polled, and Stuart was our representative.
Stuart Barrell.
Yeah.
One thing that may be time sensitive is in terms of the change of county commissioners. Do we know whether there's any difference of opinion of the?
I don't know.
That's a very, very good question, and
I think that's why they're coming back.
Amy called me the other day to ask how the council would do. I said, I don't know. We have 2 new council members. They have the right to know about this, but how about if the county's asking us to do this, how the county commissioners feel about it? And she said she felt certain from discussions with them or meetings that they felt the same way as the old commissioners. But that's why I think you might want to build in just a little bit of leeway here, possibly to give the mayor the authority to release the lawyer to enter an intervention if you all feel it necessary.
I think I need to know a little bit more about this and have a greater understanding of it all. Since we are new to this, take a look at the comp plan. The last time I kind of even reviewed it, I think, isn't it coming up due for revision sometime soon?
Yeah, but and I think the mayor said it just a little bit differently than maybe I would have said it. It does not conform with county zoning.
Okay.
It's not their comp plan, though it's that too. It does not conform with their zoning. So what the Morgneck Road Solar is asking for is a text change amendment to make it be okay there. That's what the county commissioners, if the county commissioner says we're not doing that, then that would be a moot point. So our comp plan, on the other hand, does not support something like that.
Okay.
But if the county doesn't go with the text amendment, I would not be surprised if the group then came into the town requesting an annexation so that they can do it on the town's land.
Personally,
that's why we might get it sucked into this.
Right, okay. Personally, I'm pro-solar, but it's hard for me to imagine that that's the highest and best use of that land, either for taxes or for residents or for high-density development. I just can't imagine that it would be.
I drive that road a lot, as all of us do, and I visualize a lot of things there, but a solar farm is not one of the things that I visualize to go there. And I just think they need to be out someplace. It's sun, it comes down every place. Go someplace where you can't use the property for anything else. Put it on over top of swamp someplace or something.
Well,
so the county hasn't made any type of motion?
The last time this happened, the county opposed the project in so many words.
They'll probably discuss it tomorrow night, as a matter of fact.
They opposed it last time, and very strongly.
I don't know what their agenda is, but I know it's imminent.
All right, so if we don't want to go forward with a letter right now, I just want to throw that out there because this is something that's coming down the pipeline pretty soon. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a January topic that we would take up at one of our meetings. All right, so let's move on. The holiday decoration contest, the winners, if you guys can submit your winners after the holiday break on January 4th at our next meeting. Have you been patrolling your wards?
Oh, yes, man.
Really?
Yes.
All right.
I got a couple of people right in mind right now.
All right, that's it for me. Why don't we move ahead to ward reports? Why don't we start on this side tonight?
I was sorry to have missed the Dickens Festival. Out of town for a 50th wedding anniversary, so it's one excuse. I've used that one. Be gone. But I hear it was a great festival. I'm sorry to have missed it. I was with 2 other council people at the awards and Christmas festival at the firehouse, and I was really impressed at the dedication of the people, the amount of volunteerism that goes into that. got me thinking about a lot of other people who volunteer here, be it the garden club, be it, various committees. I don't know, do we have any kind of a program that recognizes the volunteers within our community?
No, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, probably not like we should.
We really are dependent on them, and unfortunately volunteers are going down. It's harder and harder to get volunteer firemen and all activities.
Nobody we depend on more than the volunteer firemen now, I can tell you that.
So,
Well, maybe we should have a reception for all the volunteers that help the town.
I think
in
it would be great.
2019.
Yeah.
Linda?
Okay, actually, when I volunteered for the reenactment of the Battle of Cox Field, that was part of the grant response. We had to document all of our volunteer hours. But anyway, the Historical Society will be open until December 24th from 10 to 3. That's Christmas Eve. Then we'll be closed in January and February. However, the library will be open Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 10 to 3. It's just the little shop downstairs that won't be open those 2 months. And then there will be a whole new exhibit in March for the reopening, and this will be Women in Architecture. So this will be very interesting. And there were over 2,200 visitors through the Historical Society, and that's not counting how many people show up for the lectures on First Friday, and it wasn't including the house tour, which this year we had over 165 just for the house tour. And there's always a full house for the lectures. Speaking of volunteering, we're still looking for volunteers for the Tea Party Festival. It's not too late to join us. And I just wanted to bring up, I got an email that there's a Social Security scam going around. People posing as Social Security representatives calling people about their Social Security, or you owe money, or things like this. And I recently had one individual that I work with scammed by getting a $200 debit card and then calling a phone number and giving them the number on the debit card and the 3-digit number on the back of the card, and lost $200. It's very easy to get sucked in. You have to listen to the terminology, the questions they're asking, and, don't do a immediate panic. Just listen and hopefully not get sucked in. Sumner Hall won't have a concert in January. They'll start again February 9th, and that's Phil Dutton. And I thought it was an honor. I was invited to visit where all of the Kent County volunteers who collected toys from very generous donors in Kent County for children in Kent County. It's a hidden location, but I was invited to go to this huge stash of toys that were stacked from floor to ceiling, around the walls, and I know a lot of deserving kids in Kent County are going to be really happy. But I also want to just say thank you to all the volunteers, because the day that they collected the toys, it was cold and rainy, and a lot of them were on motorcycles. So however you choose to celebrate your holiday, whether it be Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, happy holidays to everybody, and a happy New Year.
Great.
Thank you so much. Also had the opportunity to attend the Dickens event, and it was really nice, and looking forward to doing it again, but I don't quite think I'm ready to wear one of the top hats yet. I had the opportunity to sit in on the quarterly meeting of the Opioid Coalition with the 5-county area, still bringing attention to that issue in our neighborhood as to how it's affecting the lives of people in a negative way. Yesterday, in the rain, I met with a family. This is a Queen Anne's County issue, but it also is an issue that relates to what's going on here in Chestertown. I met with a family and stood out in the rain with them, and we held signs, and we had a little vigil out on the intersection of 544 and 290, where the young lady recently got killed, and her family was out there. I just happened to stop in and be with them, but it brings attention and back to the table the need for the State Highway Administration to be a little bit more concerned about what's going on these roads. And I bring it up because of how they just recently denied our application out here on the Quaker Neck stretch. Somebody is going to get hurt, and they don't want to have their hands on it. So I just want to make that note that they need to really be careful and be diligent about how they make these decisions when they are deciding not to support something. I'm excited because I'm ending now the first year on council, so I'm very pleased and happy to be a part of this great body of.
Try it for 12 years and let's see what you.
I'm working on it, 1 year at a time, 1 year at a time. I appreciate the dialogue that we all have, but at the end of the day, we are still residents and lovers of this great town. So I'm happy to be a part of it. I thank the people of Chestertown for allowing me to be the 3rd Ward representative. And even though, Linda, I can't quite compete with the 10, 20,000 that you get downtown, we're still going to try to make the 3rd Ward the best it possibly can be. Thank you so much.
All right.
Come on.
You're on.
You're on.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Dave said about the volunteer fire company. And I've been going there now for the last 11 years. I did notice that the active firemen, every year there's 2 or 3 less, and they are having a hard time getting people to do it. And when I first moved to Kent County, you almost had an invitation to join the fire department because they had so many people that really wanted to be volunteer firemen. And that's just not happening now, but they certainly are a very, very valuable part of our town, so I was glad to do that. I rang the bell for the Salvation Army on Saturday, and the economy must be doing great, but this was the worst year I ever had as far. But I will say this for you, the mayor's wife went out to her car and came back and put money in the pot. So
$2.
That's the second time she's had to do that. So maybe you could give her a little bit of cash so she wouldn't have to go out to her car each time.
It's actually the opposite.
You told her not to go?
No, she needs to give me the money.
Okay. We're a tree city, so therefore it's beautiful. We have lots of trees, but in the fall we have lots of leaves, and the town is really doing a good job of trying to keep them cleaned up. But when it rains, I live in a corner lot, and it's downhill from both sides, and I have to go out and clean the drain out a couple of times a day when it's raining hard. What the point I'm bringing up is that if you have one near your home, take the time to go out and clear it out, because it keeps the streets from flooding, and all it takes is a rake in 5 minutes and you can do it. So it would be nice if everybody adopted a drain. I don't know, what do you call those things?
Storm basin, storm drain.
Yeah. And finally, this is purple. The Ravens won, we're still in it, so. Okay, and that's, I do want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah and what's the other thing? Come on. Kwanzaa, yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Kwanzaa hadn't been around as long as so.
That's all right. You thought about it. That's
All
what
right.
happened.
There were no requests from the public this evening to be on the agenda. Are there any comments from the massive audience that's left out there? No?
I'm sorry I missed the red tax enterprise zone. Did that pass?
It did. It did indeed. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.
We finally voted.